I am tier listing every single Mage Legendary. It's been a while since I've done this, about a month. Uh, I'm not a Mage main by any means. No one else is, it seems. So, that rhymed. But yeah, so I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I've played a lot of Mage, and I've obviously played against a lot of Mage, so it shouldn't be too difficult to do this, but, some cards I may be a little wrong on, but overall, I should be pretty good at able to do this. Starting, we have Sif. Sif is easily one of the best Mage legendaries ever. Rainbow Mage is one of the best decks ever in Hearthstone. It's incredibly powerful in Standard. It's not very good in Wild, but I don't think that really. I mean, that never has mattered for these tier lists. But Sif also has probably the best signature, so putting in best is pretty accurate. I think it's pretty fair. Ra's Frost Whisper. So this card was pretty decent when it came out in Skullmance, mainly because you had all those spell damage cards and it just synergized very well. It's definitely not on the same level as like a best card, but I have to put it in playable because it was genuinely a decent card for a while. It was also pretty good in Shaman, but we're not really talking about that. If I think if how do I put this? I think if Roz was maybe like 4 mana, and this card, the quest line, got reverted, then maybe, just maybe, it could be playable in Wild. But as it stands, it's just a playable legendary. Um, Hela. So you never have ever hard run this card ever, but I can't ignore the fact that at one point when you played like Drakefire Amulet in Standard, you would get Hela like almost guaranteed, and it was really, really, really strong. There was like a combo with it, and it was actually pretty good. Uh, this card has never been hard ran though, is part of the issue. At least I've never seen it, and I don't remember people even talking about it. So I can't really give it, like an upper tier, but it's definitely not bad enough to warrant being down here because it was actually like the card itself was decent. It's just it wasn't hard ran. If you understand what I'm getting at. Pyros. Pyros is pretty good. It was really good in like Big Spell Mage. It synergized incredibly well with Jaina. It's just an overall good card. It wasn't like anything top tier. It was just a solid value card. You play it, you play it, you play it. You keep getting a bigger minion, and it was relatively difficult to deal with. I think putting it in playable next to probably above Ra's, all things considered, because Big Spell Mage is a fan favorite deck as well. It was just really good and it was really fun. I think putting it there is pretty accurate for the power level of this card, like when it was in Standard. Of course, in Wild, it's completely useless. It's just worse Astalor in every single way, but like I don't think that makes the card bad overall, if you understand what I'm getting at. Sorcerer's Gambit. This card is one of the most broken cards of all time. If you can, like, consider this. United in Stormwind is one of the strongest expansions of all time in Standard. Sorcerer's Gambit is a part of that. You can't really put this card anywhere lower than best. It's probably better than Sif, too, as well. It's still nerfed, if I remember correctly, in Wild, which is crazy. Or no, I think they reverted it. It went down to 2 spell power and then back to 3. I think they reverted it. But the overall package is nerfed because how would you let this card live, you know? I loved it. I think playing that deck in Collegiate was really, really fun. It was definitely Solitaire, but it was still an interesting deck. The standard version didn't feel as oppressive as people like to claim it was because it had a really hard time with frost spells. And I don't remember if this deck ever saw really any play in Wild. Maybe like when Encanters was still like 2 mana, it probably did, but it's just that. I think putting it in best is pretty fair. Dragon Caller Alana. This card is what really carried Big Spell Mage when it was a deck for like 2 expansions, in Witchwood and in Kobolds. It was just really good card. You play it, you get a gigantic board that was really hard to deal with after you've been clearing and clearing and clearing boards all game. They're dragons, so you didn't get like lifesteal from them from Jaina, but that didn't really matter because it was just a big bomb that allowed your Jaina to really get value. I think putting this card in best is pretty fair because it was a defining card for that deck, unlike, these cards. So I think it's pretty fair. Of course, this card way too slow to see any play in Wild. This card could probably be 7 mana and wouldn't be playable. It's just the entire concept of Big Spell Mage isn't playable anymore. The game is too fast and it will never be playable, which is why Millhouse is bad. But yeah, so I think Arana is Arana or Alana? Sorry, it's Alana. Arana's the demon hunter minion or hero. What am I talking about? Yeah, Alana goes in best pretty unequivocally. Vexilus. This card is nuts. I think Vexilus can go here, honestly. The new Vexilus Quest Mage build is insane. It's very, very, very hard to deal with. I don't understand how people weren't playing it before. There's nothing new to it. Genuinely. So I don't know why people weren't playing it before. They're just dumb, I guess. But yeah, Vexilus really, really, really skyrockets the potential of Quest Mage in Wild. And it's like gotten to the point that I think that not Vexilus himself obviously needs a nerf, but Quest Mage just needs a hit. It's kind of too degenerate. In the past, yeah, Quest Mage was annoying. It wasn't really that broken. After it got nerf after nerf, but this version is genuinely degenerate to play against. I really am not happy with the current Wild metagame, almost entirely because of Quest Mage and Shudderwock Shaman. So I haven't been playing at all. And, I mean, that's pretty obvious. I haven't been uploading many videos. It's just not fun to play. I don't really have anything else to say. Vexilus is part of that reason, so I can't really put it any lower. Ronin. This card's terrible. Ronin, it's Battlecry, get 8 mana, 7/7 Battlecry, get 3 Arcane Missiles. This card's literally worse than a 1-drop. Violet Spellwing, 1 mana, 1/1 Death Rattle, get 1 Arcane Missile. Or, Arcane Worm, I think it's called, that just got nerfed. 1 mana, 1/2, get the Arcane Blast or whatever it is. That Mana Thirst card. Ronin's just worse than those cards, and it's 8 mana. What? Of course it's gonna be in the worthless power creep tier. It's just so terrible. I don't know if Ronin ever saw play. I can't really recall if so. I mean, it came out in TGT, so I can't really expect it to. Maybe it was good enough for TGT to get 3 freaking Arcane Missiles, dude. But it's just a worthless power creep card. I don't really have anything else to say. Millhouse Mana Storm. I want to put it in unplayable. I think it's fair. You don't play this card in any deck in Standard since it's come out, and of course you're never playing it Wild. It's 10 mana. 10 mana do nothing. I really thought the new Sunset Volley or whatever this card called would have made Millhouse maybe playable, because that card is good. 10 mana, deal 10, summon a 10-drop. That's a pretty good card. And if you're playing it with Millhouse, it's 0 mana at the same turn. But Standard's just way too fast for cards like that anymore. And of course, Wild is way too fast. That's not even a question. Wild was too fast for that 2-3 years ago. It's just Millhouse just won't really ever do anything. There aren't really worthwhile spells to discount, and it's 10 mana. Maybe if Millhouse was 8 mana, you could make an argument, because then you could play 2 spells the same turn you play him. I mean, 9 mana, I guess the same thing. But Millhouse just doesn't function the way that you want him to. And he's just so slow, and he doesn't win you the game for 10 mana. Sif wins you the game for 6 mana. What? Grand Magus Antonidas. This card was pretty unplayable when it came out. It came out in Stormwind, which, of course, Stormwind, you're playing Questline Mage, and you're not really playing anything else. I really enjoyed the functionality of this card. You play 3 fire spells in a row, and then you shoot 3 fireballs. It should probably be 3 Pyroblasts. Let's be real here. 3 fireballs is not enough for 8 mana and for a condition. It is an awesome card, though. Genuinely a genuine awesome card. I just can't really put it any higher. It doesn't deserve to go lower. It's not, worthless, because, the concept is decent, and it's technically better than, something like Jan'alai, functionality-wise, but it's just a meh at best card. Agewin. I think Agewin is one of the best mage legendaries. It's so good in like standard tempo mage whenever that's a playable deck. I really like Agewin. I wish Agewin was like 4 mana and it was playable in wild. Agewin's just an awesome concept. When Agewin came out, there was like a Theorycraft, like spell damage mage deck that didn't fully function, but you would run it with the 6 mana 6/6 that summoned a copy whenever it had if you had spell damage, because if that got spell damage from Agewin, it would always summon a copy, and there would be +4 spell damage. That was pretty good. Um, I'm sure Agewin is like a card that people really also enjoy as well. It's just a fun function, and that like synergizes incredibly well with like duplicating effects. Like Azurite Chain Gang functions really well with it. Um, yeah, Agewin's just a really interesting card. It's definitely better than these two because Agewin has built tempo mage decks in the past and made them playable, but I don't think it's definitely not the best card. It's not on the same level as these four with what they did for decks. Jan'alai. Jan'alai is, I'd say, worthless power creep by another card that's going to be on this list. So Jan'alai was made to work with Odd Mage. However, Odd Mage was terrible, and this card came out in Roscom's Rumble, so of course it was incredibly made to be bad. There have been like a million ideas for how to rework Jan'alai over the years. None of them really make sense. Like, people were like, oh, maybe if your deck is only odd, summon 2 Ragnaroses. But, like, that's terrible. It's a 7 mana card that summons 2 Rags. Like, you can do that for 7 mana in Shaman to summon 3 Rags, without a condition. It's just, the card just doesn't function. It doesn't do anything useful. Odd Mage just sucks. Even Mage needs Wildfire back. And Even Mage was a good deck. Even Mage actually was pretty decent. Jan'alai just terrible card. It's like, and it's power crept. So like, what do you do? Jaina. I think Jaina probably here. Nah, probably there. Like, Jaina was a incredible value bomb. Probably one of the like top 3 Death Knights, I'd say. You have Rexxar, Gul'dan, Jaina, probably interchangeably because they were all really good at different times. Big Spell Mage with Jaina was insane. You like this Jaina card really is a fan favorite as well. So like, if I put it lower, I'll get called names. But it was just an incredibly powerful card. It gave you so much value. You'd play it with Voodoo Doll in Witchwood, and you would kill a minion and summon a 3/6 with Lifesteal. It was so good. Like, I think anyone that played with this card understands why it's such a fan favorite. It could probably be 7 mana nowadays, let's be real here. Maybe even 6, and it would be fair. I don't really know what else to say about it. Like, the card just is too slow nowadays, but that doesn't really change what it did in the past. Chromie Time Hopper. Yeah, I'm a big Chromie fan as a character, but this card's just not very good. The historical epochs, don't really do anything useful, and it's like just slow. One of them is a board clear, but you're not guaranteed to get it, and then shuffling them into your deck doesn't really matter. Like, I don't know. It's just, the card doesn't really do anything. It's not like a worthless card, because like in Twist it might be okay, but who cares about Twist? There's like literally 300 people playing it total. So yeah, the card's just bad. I don't really know what else to say about it. I've never even played it. I don't even think I own the card. Like, I've never seen anyone play this card in Wild. It's just terrible. Raid the Sky Temple. Functionally, it's not power crept and worthless. However, it's probably the actual worst of the cards. Maybe Ronin's worse, actually. I don't know. But the way that I have my tier list set up is that, like, these cards might be functionally better than some of these cards, but they are just power crept, Raid the Sky Temple just doesn't do anything. Like, why would you ever play this over just the Reno Hero card, You get, like, a random spell, and you have to play a million spells to get it to work. It was terrible. It's probably one of the worst Old Doom quests. At least the Warlock one has, like, a function and, like, a use. You had, like, Malagos Warlock that could use it, but Raid the Sky Temple is just terrible card. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Just doesn't do anything. It's hard to complete. Do you have to play, like, 20 spells for it? It's 10 spells, which is only slightly easier than Time Warp, because it's not like not it's any 10, not just 10 you generated, but like that doesn't make it any better. Time Warp wins you the game. This doesn't win you the game, you know? Kazakis. Ooh, Kazakis. Probably like right here. No. Yeah, right there. Kazakis as a mage card is pretty good. Overall, Kazakis is pretty good as a priest and warlock card more. Reno Mage never really was on the same level as Reno Lock and Reno Priest, but didn't really make Kazakis a bad card. It's just more Mage didn't really have as good of options. Mage kind of lacks like hyper efficient removal like Priest and Warlock do. Mage cards are typically synergize a lot better when you have duplicates, and that's kind of why Reno Mage isn't that great. Obviously, you have Reno Quest Mage, which is different, but you don't run Kazakis in Reno Quest Mage. Yeah, Kazakis is just a good card. You get 1/5/10 pot, and usually it was good enough. Nowadays you don't run Kazakis because it's just functionally worse than ETC. Like, if you wanted to run Kazakis, you would just run ETC with the cards that do the same thing, and like it's a guarantee instead of Kazakis getting you like a chance for something good. Like one of the best 10 pots was to get the Mass Polymorph, but you could just run ETC with Mass Polymorph as a card, and it's 3 mana cheaper. You could just do that. I don't know why you would, because there's better usages of ETC. You can have like Potion in your ETC, which is so much better. But I'm not talking about ETC. I'm talking about Kazakis. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it. It's just functionally, Kazakis was a very strong card for a long time. It wasn't like an incredibly broken card, but it was just so useful that I can't really put it anywhere else. Mozaki. Mozaki is functionally worse than Sif in current year because Sif is like a guarantee, but Mozaki, I think at its peak, was an actual playable deck in Wild, so it's pretty. I think they're about the same, Mozaki Mage and Wild, you have Sorcerer's Apprentice before his nerf, you had a Cancer Slow before his nerf, you played it with like all these incredibly broken cards that have now been nerfed, and you would just cycle, you pop off on like turns, you literally pop off on like turn 5 sometimes because of a Cancer Slow. It was so nuts. It was just an incredible deck. Anyone that played during the time, remembers it. A lot of people remember it fondly. It was just really cool. I don't really have that much else to say about it. It was just an awesome deck. Mozaki, you get spell damage every single time you play a card. Mozaki Mage was a like tier 1 deck at one point, so I can't really say it's any worse. Oh god, what is this? Shenvala, unplayable card. This is like Dragon Soul in Priest, but worse. Because Dragon Soul was whenever you play like 3 spells and it's a weapon, but Shenvala is a minion. If you have the exact same effect for 2 cards, and one of them is a minion and one is a weapon, the weapon is better. And Dragon Soul is a terrible card. Terrible card. So what does that make you think about Shenvala? Yeah. Shenvala just sucks. It never does anything. You have to play 3 spells to get 1/5/5. Like, what, dude? You can play 3 spells to win the game. I don't get it. The functionality of this card never made any sense to me. Like, I guess at best you play it with Jaina and play, and then you get a bunch of 5/5s. Oh wow. No, it never happens. It doesn't happen. The card's just terrible. I can't technically put it in Power Creep because it did come out after Dragon Soul, but you understand what I'm getting at. What is it? Keyword and Ivory. This card was probably bad. You didn't really hard run this ever. However, if you had like ways to generate it, it was pretty good. You could generate it in Whirl Kick Rogue pretty commonly. It was just a pretty decent card overall. Getting dual class spells at the time was pretty powerful. Like there were a couple stinkers. You could get like Cutting Class, I guess, which is 5 mana, wasn't very great, or like Guardian Animals, which definitely sucked. But over most of the time, you get things like Nitro Boost Poison, or what is it, Brain Freeze, and it was really good. And then because it was Spell Burst, you would get it back. It was just a pretty decent card. Like, overall. I'd say it's about the same level as Halo. I don't really have much else to say about it. It didn't really get hard ran, but generating it was pretty good. Unlike these cards where you can't really generate them, and it wouldn't even be good to generate them. Alaneth. Alaneth is probably about here. Alaneth is an incredible card. You had a bunch of different burn mages running this card. Secret Mage ran it for a long time. Secret Mage eventually cut it about the times, literally right before Sage came out. You would cut Alaneth, and then Sage came out, and it was over for Alaneth. But the thing about Alaneth not going Power Crypt is because it was a good card. It was an incredibly powerful card. This was like one of the best Mage Legendaries at the time, and it really made late Mage playable, because Secret Mage was the best Mage deck in Wild for a long time and almost entirely because Alaneth gave you so much draw and burn potential. I can't really put it in anywhere else. I think putting it right there is about accurate. It's just a really powerful card. Yeah, but here's the thing. Sage, Seer of Darkmoon is also an incredibly powerful card. You run Sage in Secret Mage, of course, because it's always drawing you at least 2 or 3 cards, and it's just a decent body. It really gives you that oomph to end the game a lot of the time, and it doesn't fatigue you as often as Alaneth. Of course, you could draw 7 cards from Sage. It's possible if you have this card in your deck, but it's usually only going to draw you 4. But that's fine. 6 mana, 5/5, draw 4 cards that are usually going to end you the game because you've run out of gas. So many games are decided just by if the Secret Mage draws Sage on 6. And, I mean, obviously Secret Mage isn't very good right now, mainly because they just randomly nerfed it for no reason, and we're suffering the consequences. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Secret Mage was a necessary deck to exist. If Secret Mage was a thing right now, Shutterwalk Shaman wouldn't be as good. Quest Mage wouldn't be as good. Secret Mage just ate these weird, slow, combo decks that had, some removal. It just was so good in those decks. And it doesn't exist right now, and we're paying the price for it. Don't know why Blizzard nerfed it. It wasn't even very good. It was a tier 3 or 4 deck at best at the time. It wasn't very good in the meta. So I just don't know why it just got nerfed because of freaking Gold 10 Redditors, dude. I hate it. So I hate Gold 10 players and Reddit so much. Secret Mage is a staple deck of the meta that is a necessary one to exist. Sure, it's a tier 1 deck every once in a while, but does that matter? How is Secret Mage being tier 1 any worse than Shutterwalk Shaman being tier 1? I don't know. Of course, we're going to talk about Orion. So I'm not a fan of Orion in Secret Mage, but I can't deny the fact that it is a good card in the deck. I don't think it's very overall useful. I think it's a niche meta pick. Oh, actually, there are some metas where Orion is better than it's not. Namely, just when you need to go fast. Say we're in the meta we're in right now, I think Orion would be pretty okay because the games are a lot slower. Against Shutterwalk Shaman, Dragon Druid, Quest Mage, things like that. But in certain metas, the card's just terrible because it's a 4 mana do nothing. It doesn't matter if it gets stats and gives you more secrets. You want to end the game by the time you're playing this card. It's okay overall. I can't really put it any worse than right there, but the card's just meh. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Orion. I just have to acknowledge that it is pretty decent. What's this card called? Mezzadune? So there are people running Mezzadune in Arena Quest Mage to get 2 Vexillus. It's not very good, but there are people doing it. Mezzadune doesn't really do much. You could get 2 Zephyrus from it, which is kind of funny. But the card's functionally better than these cards. That's not a question. It tutors the broken card and the other broken card, Zephyrus. Zephyrus is probably arguably the best card of all time. So tutoring it and doubling it, that's got to be a decent enough effect for this card. It doesn't really do anything else. Elemental Mage is terrible, worthless deck. It's only being used to copy Vexillus and Zephyrus. So I have to put it in about here. Rawmath. Probably about here. Rawmath is the entire reason that Quest Mage functions right now. Before, in the past, you would play Parrot, and then you would get infinite quests, and you didn't really use Raw Math because it was too slow, but like as the deck gets faster and faster because of things like Vexilus and understanding how to play it better, and Raw Math is the win condition of the deck. Sure, you know, what's it called? Is the engine, open the way gates, the engine, Raw Math is how you win the game. Raw Math is just incredibly powerful. You can play Raw Math in so many different decks. There's a Reno Mage list that uses Raw Math to copy Ice Block and Potion of Illusion, and then you copy Alex Straza that deals 8 damage, and then you just kill your opponent that way. I love that deck. It's very fun. It's one of my favorite decks ever, actually. I'm not going to lie. It's so cool. It's not very good, just significantly worse, but Raw Math just does a lot. You can also play it in Standard with like things like Light Show Mage, which was a really cool deck as well. Mage has a lot of really cool decks. It's just they suck. All the good Mage decks are boring, and all the fun Mage decks are bad. I don't know what Blizzard needs to do to make stuff like that not true, but it definitely needs to happen. But yeah, Raw Math pretty easily goes right here. Norganon. Norganon is functionally one of those, like, this is a pretty solid legendary that came out in an expansion, and it's going to be good for that expansion and its standard cycle, but eventually it's just going to be not that good because it'll be too slow, or it just won't be good enough. Kind of like Roz, actually, where it was just really good for like 1 or 2 expansions, but functionally doesn't really do much more. Norganon, 9 times out of 10, you're using it to kill a minion, and then the other 1 time out of 10, you're using it to have like a Cult Neophyte effect for 6 mana. Not that great. It's a Titan, so it doesn't get to attack or anything like that, but everyone knows how Titans work. Norganon, functionally though, he gets stronger the longer he's on the board. It's almost never correct to go for the 20 damage blast, by the way. Usually you want to do like the 5 damage. 5 damage is usually correct. But if you can somehow get that 20 damage blast, oh my dude, it's so satisfying to kill someone with. Like, I don't know how better to describe Norganon than that. He's just a very satisfying card. He does a decent amount for what his mana cost is. You know, of course, making all cards cost 1 more is pretty decent, but all cards cost 2 more is actually where it's good. 3 more is almost never correct. I would rather have 3 secrets than 3 more, to be honest. But if for some reason, like, you're like, okay, I just need to randomly high roll Ice Block, he can do that. Don't know why. I've lost to it a couple times. I'm not gonna lie, it's really annoying. But yeah, Norganon, playable tier. It's just a pretty good card. Belinda Stonehearth. Big Spell Mage in Standard kind of ran this card, but I don't know if that deck was any good. I thought it was like tier 3 at best. I think I have to put it here, just because like you did run this card, but it wasn't like, I guess it's on the same level as like Roz, right? Where it was okay for like 1 or 2 expansions. It helped the deck function. It had its job. I don't know. This card never, ever saw play in Wild, obviously. It wasn't on my radar. It wasn't on a lot of people's radar when it was like coming out, because like when it came out, your only big spell in Standard was that 10 mana spell that would like cast 3 spells from your deck, which I guess you could cheat out with Belinda, but like, I don't know. I don't really have much else to say about this card. It's just about playable. Evocation. Probably right here. You run Evocation in Quest Mage. That enough should say it. Evocation was a good card. It got nerfed even. It was 2 mana at one point because it was so good. So it has to go in best, of course. But I think Evocation just will always be a pretty decent card, just because it's like, you can play it with like Finley, which is really strong actually. Like Finvocation's a really strong combo. It gets you so much card draw for 2 mana. You just get some jail out of free cards. Of course, it gives you random mage spells, so it can always give you Ice Block, and any card that can give you Ice Block is broken. I really got much else to say about Evocation. It just speaks for itself. Anyone that's ever played with this card knows about it. Bone Lord Kel'Thuzad. So Skeleton Mage in Standard was a pretty good deck for 1 expansion. That basically just says it. 1 expansion. It's not like a prolific deck where it's going to be good for all time. It's never going to be good in Wild. This card's way too slow. I don't really have that much else to say about it. It was just a solid deck, and this was the legendary of the archetype. You know, it was just a good card. I don't really know. The Amazing Reno. This card. Okay, this is going to be controversial. I don't think this card belongs on the same tier as these cards because functionally all the card is a removal. It's 10 mana, like upgrade. It's 10. It actually no, the card is power crept. What am I talking about? The card is worse than New Reno Lone Ranger. Functionally, it is worse than Reno Lone Ranger. It's not a bad card by any means. I'm gonna change this actually just to power crept because it's more accurate. It's not a bad card by any means. It's just functionally it is worse than an 8 mana card. So that means it is severely power crept. You would play it in like some Reno Mages, but of course Reno Mage is not that good of a deck, and it hasn't been aside from Reno Quest Mage. Reno Secret Mage was okay at one point, like at best. It's not even worth talking about. But Reno, like this Reno, the Amazing Reno, after you play it, there have been so many times where the Amazing Reno loses you the game, which is crazy. Like he'll clear the board, yeah, and then he just kills you because he casts a random spell at the start of each turn. Sometimes you get pyroblasted. It's happened. It happens a lot. Unlike New Reno, which does the same thing, but it's not symmetrical and it doesn't kill you. It's just significantly worse. Deck of Lunacy. Wow, Deck of Lunacy was so broken. On what's it called in Fortune of the Barons, Deck of Lunacy was insanely broken. There were 3 10 mana spells in the game at that point. It was like Grand Slam. I don't remember the other ones, but Grand Slam for 7 mana was so disgusting. It also existed at the same time as 4 mana Spring Water and 2 mana Incanter's Flow. So like, yeah. I think it's fair to put Lunacy at like the top for right now. Maybe even top all time. No, not top all time. Of course, it's going to be Open the Waygate. What am I talking about? But Deck of Lunacy was incredibly broken. Anyone that played during that time knows this. Like in Standard, it was so gross. It was also good in Wild too, because getting it was mainly good in Wild because of the broken cards in Canter's Flow and Spring Water. But in Standard, like after those cards both got nerfed, it was still good. It only died when it went to 4 mana. Like Deck of Lunacy was like Keleseth on crack. You would play this on 2 and you basically won the game because like how strong it was to get 5 mana cards for 2 mana. Like, and sometimes for 0 mana. You would get 5 mana cards for actually 0 mana. It was so disgusting. Like, I don't know how else better to describe how broken this card really was at the time. Toki Time Tinkerer. This card is technically functionally worse than a new card. What is it? Something Has Been. It's from Festival of Legends, 6 mana, 5/5 Death Rattle, summon a legendary or summon a minion from the past or something like that. Functionally, Toki is worse than that card. I have to put it here. Toki was also just a terrible card to begin with. The card never saw any play whatsoever. It's also worse than like Time Rift or whatever it's called, the 3 mana spell that gets 2 spells from the past. The card Toki's just a terrible card. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Flame Leviathan. Yeah, about unplayable. Flame Leviathan is just a pretty mediocre card. 7 mana, 7/7 rush mech, deal 2 damage to all non-mechs is okay at best. Maybe if this card was like 5 mana, 5/5, and it dealt like 3 damage, it would be a playable card. I tried playing this in Twist after it got buffed in like Reno Mage, and it was okay at best. Like sometimes you would just draw it with Timeline Accelerator, and then you'd get 5 mana, 7/7 rush, deal 2 to all enemies. And that was pretty good. That was actually pretty decent. Except it doesn't matter because it was Twist, and Twist power level doesn't matter. I don't know. The card's just not good. It doesn't function. If you draw it at the wrong time, you just lose the game. This card actually can lose you the game. A lot of these cards, they're bad, but whatever. This card can lose you the game. Same with Alaneth. Alaneth can lose you the game, and same with Amazing Reno, but like Amazing Reno also can win you the game. Oh man. Sorry. Alaneth can also win you the game. This card never really wins you the game. This is just bad. Lady Nazjar. I don't think this card really did much of anything. If you played it with an arcane spell, it would then be 5 mana 5/5 battlecry reduce the cost of spells in your hand by 1, which is good. The issue is if you played a fire spell, it was freaking explosive shot. You know that hunter spell, deal 5 damage to a minion, deal 2 to adjacent. Which is terrible. That card's awful. And if you played a frost spell, it was Astalor 5, which is okay. Astalor 5 is an okay card. It's just you don't play Astalor because of Astalor 5. You play Astalor because of Astalor 8. You know. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. It's not unplayable. It does have a use. You know, reducing your hand by 1 is pretty decent. But, meh. You know, just meh. That's all I can really say about it. Erigol. Erigol did see play, actually, in, what's it called? Like, I don't know what to call it. Like, Giants Mage, I think it was called. Erigol was pretty good in that deck. Because it would help you, you know, reduce the cost of Giants. It wasn't amazing, but it was playable. It was also playable in, like, Reno Mage. A lot of decks have experimented with Erigol just over the years, because the function of the card is pretty decent. Get a copy of the card you draw. That's an okay effect. It's just not amazing. I can't really put it in bad because the card did see some meta play throughout, like, its lifetime. But it's definitely the worst of a playable card. Malygos, Aspect of Magic. Definitely a playable card. Again, you would play this in things like Reno Mage. Dragon Mage was like okay with it. You mainly play Dragon Mage for Dragoncaster. They didn't really care that much about Malygos. Malygos is just like an okay card. You know, getting upgraded like classic spells is pretty decent. You get like cheaper Flame Strike. You would get like, I think it was like 0 mana Frostbolt. Your Fireball deal like 8 damage or something. It was pretty decent overall. It definitely is way too worthless nowadays. Like, the effects are just not good. Like, again, it's another one of those cards where it's like, okay, just play ETC instead and you have better effects. Which is kind of crazy that ETC is like one of those cards. That is just like, yeah, ETC significantly power creeps a lot of like good cards. And does its own thing. I don't really have much else to say about it. Technically speaking, if I were to rate ETC as a card, I'd probably like right here as like a mage card, but it's a neutral card, so I won't. I don't really have anything else to say. This is an okay card at best. Same with this one. Mordrash, Fire Eye. Mordrash is the card I was talking about that fully and unequivocally power creeps Jan'alai. So, Mordrash originally cost 10 mana, and it was bad. And then it costs 8 mana, and Even Mage was good and wild. It deals... is it 10 or 8 damage? Yeah, it deals 10 damage to all enemies. That is a lot of damage for an 8/8. Jan'alai summons Ragnaros for 1 less mana, and the same effect. Like, what? Mordrash is just nuts. Like, full clearing the enemy board, dealing 10 damage to their face. It's easier to complete because you can play an Even Mage, which has Reckless Apprentice, I think it's called. The one that shoots your hero power and everything. It's just a better card in every possible way. The only reason that you can't really play it right now is because Wildfire is 1 mana right now, but honestly, they should make Wildfire 2 mana again. Like, people, I don't know why they didn't. People love that card in Even Mage. Like people were genuinely furious that Wildfire got changed to 1 mana in Wild. Like, it was insane watching or like reading all these like Reddit posts and Twitter posts about it. People love this card. Archmage Antonidas, easily one of the best Mage Legendaries. I don't know where I would put it. I'm just going to put it here for right now. So, Exodia Mage was a good deck. It just was. Exodia Quest Mage was a good deck. It just was. There's an Exodia Mage in Wild right now, actually, with Terralon, whatever the new Mage Legendary is. that makes your mage cards cost 4 less, but not less than, or not, makes your cards generated cost 4 less, but not less than 1. Tathalon, Bloodwatcher, something like that. That combo is like doable. It's not amazing. It's a little too slow, I think, actually, but like it's definitely doable. And Antonidas again is the engine for that deck. What you do is you play like Bran, etc. You get Antonidas and you get Sorcerer's Apprentice from it, and then Tathalon makes them both cost like no mana, and then the next turn you just pow 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 a million fireballs into their face. Or you could play it with Quest Mage. I think the Quest Mage version is actually worse than the ETC version, but it's definitely doable. The Quest Mage version is just a little slower. It's actually kind of funny for the combo. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. Antonidas is just a very prolific card. Sometimes just getting like 2 fireballs and just killing your opponent with fireballs the next turn was good enough in like early Hearthstone as well. You didn't even need full Exodia, but it was good. Hexlord Malacrest, functionally power crept card. It's probably one of the worst cards ever printed. However, it is power crept by, I think it's called Twilight Whelp. No, that's not true. That's not what it's called. 1 second. Starlight Whelp. Twilight Whelp is the priest minion. Yeah, Starlight Whelp. Functionally power creeps Hexlord Malacrest. And it doesn't give you your full starting hand. Yeah, however, who cares? Fizzle technically also power creeps it, but I wouldn't consider that the same. If Malacrest let you copy himself, he would have been an okay card when he came out. However, it's 8 mana, 5/5, get like 3 cards. Like, what? Get 3 okay at best cards? Because it's hard to control what you get in your mulligan anyway. It's just a bad card. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just a terrible card. Reno Relicologist. I think this is up there. It made Reno Mage really like playable in standard because 6 mana deal 10 to enemy minions like randomly split. It's pretty good. You still play it in like slower Reno Mage and Wild because if you can like potion this and like Bran it, it's so gross. Yeah, I don't really have anything to say. It's just a good board removal card. Like, good board removal cards are typically not on the same level as cards that, like, single-handedly win you the game. Like, Kazakis is more similar to this than it is to, like, Vexillus or Deck of Lunacy. But it's just very solid card. And it's way better than these cards. That's for sure. Infinitize the Maxitude. I think this card sucks. I think Infinitize the Maxitude is a bad card. I think if you run it in Quest Mage, you're actively hurting your deck. I don't think this card sees any play in Standard either. I think the card functionally makes your deck worse if you have it. Because what happens when you play in Quest Mage is you keep getting it back. You keep getting it back and it fills up your hand and then it ruins your raw math. And people don't realize that. I've won so many games because of this card. Because people will play raw math with it, and then they get a full hand, and they can't bounce their raw math, and they just lose. Like, this card just is bad. Do not play this card in Quest Mage. Do not do it unless you are trying to lose. It's so terrible. Kaligos. I don't think Kaligos was ever a hard ran card. Here's the thing. It's definitely better than Hela, because, again, you would generate Kaligos, and it was good. Generating a card and hard running it are so different, and people don't realize that. Like, generating Kaligos felt amazing, but hard running it, terrible. The effect is pretty good as a hard run effect, as well, or as a generate effect as well, because you would play it, and then your expel would cost 0. Millhouse. Yeah. Millhouse is just also worse than Kaligos, but it's not power crept because Kaligos came first. You'd play Kaligos on 9 and have the exact same goddamn effect as Millhouse. And it was every turn. It would cost 0 if it could live. Yeah. Like, what else do I say? It also would give you a spell, which is pretty useful as well. Just about this tier, about the same level as these cards. Gaia. I don't think Gaia ever saw any play whatsoever. Gaia is probably the worst Titan. It's too slow. It probably should have cost 6 mana, let's be real. You never play it. You literally will never play this in Wild. It's not even a good discover in Wild is the worst part because it's 8 mana. It actually made the mech pool for Mage worse. That is how bad Gaia is. I mean, same with Flame Leviathan. I probably should have brought that up. Yeah, like Mech Mage was a very strong deck in both formats, but I don't think Gaia made the cut in Standard, and it definitely didn't in Wild. So, like, what else is there for a card that it's so bad it doesn't make the cut in either format for a deck that was genuinely built around it? Anomalous. Something tells me that Anomalous saw play at one point, but I genuinely cannot remember the deck. That is how awful this card is, that I am positive it did see play when it came out, but I can't remember what it was running. So I have to put it here just because I can't remember if it like what it was in. I know people have talked about this card because it's just like, oh, 8 mana, 8/8, deal 8 to the board. That's pretty okay. But like, I can't remember what it was in. That's the worst part. I mean, the card's just terrible. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's why I'm confused, like, if I'm sure it even saw any play. But it's just a terrible card. It's so bad. I don't have anything else to say about it. Astromancer Solarian. Probably right here. This card was insane when it came out, and it got nerfed, and it was still good. You would just play this, and you would play random bullshit Go Mage, and you would get freaking, what's it called? Box of Yogg-Saron Puzzle Box? Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron, I think it's called. Off of Solarian's effect, and you would win the game. Because you would just have so much mana worth of effects for like 7 mana, I think Solarian cost at the time before it got nerfed. And it would have spell damage. It was just nuts. Like, Solarian solo won you the game. It was so disgusting if you could get it on like 7. Actually insane card. Probably one of the most degenerate cards ever printed, and it got nerfed for that reason, because it was so degenerate. Varden Dawngrasp. Again, Varden is just one of those pretty good cards in Mage that, you know, it just does a lot. It freezes the board, it kills the board. You run this in any deck that is light on spells because it's just an incredibly powerful effect. It's Frost Nova on a stick. Just overall very good card. Like, any Mage, I think that even Reno Quest Mage runs this card. That's how good it is. Like, it's just such a good card. AoE freezing the board is so powerful that it got nerfed twice for Shaman because it was so broken when it cost 5 mana, by the way. It cost 5 mana in Shaman, and then it cost 6. And then it also lost effects. Like, this card, let that explain how strong AoE board freezes are, especially when they're one-sided. Like, Varden's just incredibly powerful card. Here we are. The best Mage Legendary. Open the Waygate. Quest Mage has been a very powerful mage deck since it's come out, basically. Like, it was okay, I guess, when it came out. It wasn't as broken, but as time goes on, you get better and better and better generation cards for mage, and they get stronger and stronger and stronger engine cards that reduce cards. Like this new Vexilus Mana Biscuit engine is degenerate. It is so stupid. Like, genuinely, I think it's fair to put Vexilus right here because of just how strong that engine is right now in the current meta. Like, this isn't even like recency bias. This is like one of the most degenerate times Quest Mage ever has been. Even when Parrot still worked, even when you had Flame Waker Mage, even when you had Sorcerer's Apprentice, this is one of the most degenerate versions of Quest Mage right now. So, let that tell you that Quest Mage has been a long-standing deck in the meta that people do despise. People despise Quest Mage. And it somehow still is not a nerfed quest. Somehow this quest has only been nerfed once. And it wasn't even a nerf. The nerf that it did get, everyone memed for years because it was a slap on the wrist. Like, it went from like 6 spells to 8 spells, I think, right? Yeah, 6 spells to 8 spells. Like, what? That's not a real thing. It slowed the deck down maybe 1 turn at most and doesn't affect it sometimes at all. And this Vexilus combo doesn't affect it at all. It's insane. Rewind, Vexilus, Mana Biscuit, Like this engine is so disgusting that like I cannot understand why Blizzard did not nerf it already. It's so gross. I can't I keep harping on it, but it's just true. Tailflon Bloodwatcher. Right, that is his name. Let me check. Yeah, Tailflon Bloodwatcher. So I want to put it in playable, but the card sees no play. The issue with this card, I think, is just the fact that the Antonidas deck is a little too slow. If we were in a meta where it was just a little good enough, the card would definitely be good. However, it's just a tiny bit too slow. You're not really you're just not faster than Shutter Shaman. You're not faster than like Dragon Druid. You're not faster than Quest Mage. And all of those decks just have ways to disrupt you, and like to the point that you just can't do anything about it. Functionally, Tailflon is a good card, because again, it just works so well with this Exodia combo. It's just the deck itself is a tiny bit too slow, so I have to put it here. I can't really put it in playable. And the card sees no play in standard whatsoever. Whatever. Khadgar, easy S tier. Giant's Mage was an incredibly powerful deck on the back of Khadgar. Khadgar is a fan favorite card. It was even in Battlegrounds, and it was a fan favorite card. I love Khadgar. It's not really playable at all anymore. It's on the same level as like Jaina, where just the effect just doesn't really matter. It's like a value card, yeah, but like meh, meh. I can't put it lower though because Giant's Mage was a literal tier 1 deck. It was actually probably the best deck in the game at one point. Yeah, like Khadgar is just really good. You go, guy. What is it? Sivara, not Shivara. Sivara is incredibly powerful card. Quest Mage runs this card. Reno Quest Mage runs this card. If it's in those decks, it has to be very good, right? It used to be the sole way of getting Potion of Illusion for the deck before Festival of Legends, and that made the card even better. But now that it's not the sole way of getting Potion of Illusions, it's a little worse. ETC, Potion of Illusion is just nuts, though. So you can't really put that on Sivara for being bad. Yeah, I don't know. Savara's just an overall good card. It's seen a lot of play. You've played it in Standard. You played it in, like... obviously you played it in Wild. It's just a good card. I don't really have anything much else to say about it. Jandis Barov. I hate to put Jandis in playable, but by my own rules, Jandis was only really playable in one expansion for Mage. For Rogue, Jandis was a lot better, but for Mage, it was only really playable in one expansion. When it came out, in like Skullman's. Jandis is a nuts card. Let's be real. Let's be 100% serious for a second. Jandis is a disgusting card. It's 5 mana, 2/1, summon 2 5-drops, pick 1 to die after it takes 1 damage. If you get like a taunt or a Divine Shield minion, the effect doesn't really matter because it's so hard to kill the 1 health minion. Plus, Jandis just gives you so many stats. It's so insane for tempo. It's definitely too weak in Wild because there's so many like AoE 1 damage effects in Wild nowadays. But like when it came out, there just weren't very many. Like in Skullman's, there weren't that many AoE 1 damage effects, and it was so hard to deal with. Like, and it made Tempo Rogue, like a tier 1 deck with the what's it called? The field contact engine of Tempo Rogue. It made it like a tier 1 deck in Standard. It was so disgusting. Of course, like nowadays, like I'm saying, the card just doesn't really function in Wild because, again, there's so many AoE, like 1 damage effects, or AoE effects in general, that Jandis just dies and the 1 health minion dies and you just got a random 5-drop for 5 mana, which is not good. But when this card came out in Standard, it was disgusting. I don't know how much else to say about it. Varden Dawngrasp. Varden is the better hero card for Mage. It's the best hero card for Mage, and it's really strong. It's almost like if you have Ramath, but for 7 mana, and it's not a minion. Wow, who could have guessed? You can copy your Ice Blocks. You can copy your Potion Illusions. You can copy anything, because as long as it has a spell school. It's really, really, really good. Varden's actually banned right now in Wild still because it's bugged. and it might get nerfed. It might get like a full rework to be bad, and I'm gonna be so sad because Varden's just a really fun card. Varden also got nerfed in standard at one point because of its hero power being too good. It like got buffed because the hero power sucked, and then it got nerfed. I mean, some 2-mana Fireball just is really good in standard. You know, like every single turn, it's just really good. I don't really have much else to say about Varden. I know I say that a lot about things. I'm like, oh, not much to say, but like solid cards are just solid. You know, Varden's done a lot. It will continue to be a pretty good card. Just the fact that it replays Ice Block alone makes it a good card. So, yeah. Pocket Galaxy at 5 mana probably goes about here. Pocket Galaxy at 7 mana goes like here. Pocket Galaxy at 7 mana never was good. It was so terrible at 7 mana. It was like such a meme for people to play this card, but it never has ever done anything. Like 7 mana Pocket Galaxy sucks. 5 mana Pocket Galaxy was nuts, and I have to put it because of 5 mana, because it was at 5 mana at one point. Right? But it's just 5 mana Pocket Galaxy literally broke standard. It was so broken, and it got hotfix nerfed. It was one of the first ever cards to get buffed, and it got like nerfed instantly after in the next patch. It was so broken. Like, words do not... I can't describe just how strong this card was. It was so nuts. Like, making all the minions in your deck cost 1 for 5 mana? Nuts. It would probably be playable in Wild today if it still did that. But at 7 mana, it's just terrible. Terrible card. It's so slow. 7 mana do nothing. You lose the game by that point. Just terrible card. Syndragosa. Syndragosa was really, really good because of Jaina. The card, not very good on its own. The main reason this card was good is you played it with Jaina, and then you hero powered the 1/1s with Jaina, the 1/1s with Jaina, and then you got a 3/6 and you got a random legendary. Terrible in every other circumstance. It was terrible in every other circumstance. But you played it after Jaina came down, and it was good just for that. I can't put it in best because it was only good in one specific scenario, but it was still really good in that scenario. Ingmaster Solia, unplayable. Actually, power crept. This card's so bad. It's Battle Cry. If your deck has no duplicates, your next spell costs 0. Dragoncaster does this effect for 6 mana. Yep. That's it. I don't know what else to say. It's just a terrible card. And lastly, we have Luna. Luna. I think Luna probably goes there. Luna has been in so many decks. It's been in Quest Mage. It's been in Reno Mage. It's been in Tempo Mage. It's been in Seeker Mage. It's been in Mech Mage. It's been in everything. It's been in Ignite Mage. It's been in freaking Flamewaker Mage. It's been in Giants Mage. It's been in everything. Luna is one of the most played Mage Legendaries of all time. It's not the same power level as all these other ones, I will say. But it's definitely one of the most played. Which is good. Like, that alone should let you know why Luna is such a good card. It's freaking 3 mana Auctioneer, dude. Like, what? Like, people were complaining about at 4 mana Edwin when it got buffed to 3 mana, right? Luna already did that, and it wasn't, like, a condition. Luna already did what that Edwin did. Of course, it didn't gain stats, and it wasn't a pirate, so you couldn't give it charge, and that's why that card was broken. But who cares? Right? Luna just is so much cycle. It's so good. I mean, like, there's a reason that Luna still sees play today in certain decks. In Reno Quest Mage. So, drawing cards is very powerful. When it's a card that draws you like 3 cards on its own, and is a minion, and sometimes can draw you more. Yeah. We have to be thankful that Ignite Mage is not a deck anymore, because Luna was nuts in that deck. Of course, technically, Sanctum Chandler was better, because Sanctum Chandler only drew fire spells. But if your deck was empty, Luna was better in every way. But yeah, this is not... I wouldn't call this definitive, because I'm not a big Mage player. I know I've played against Mage, and I've played it throughout the years, but, like, certain cards here, like, freaking Anomalous, or, like, Nazjar, you know, I don't know specifically if they ever saw play. I can't really claim this one to be as accurate as my other ones. But if there's anything in here that you don't agree with or you don't like, tell me in the comments. Join my Discord. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'm Color HS. Make sure to share this video with anyone that you want. And peace. I'll catch you guys in the next one.